the best way to know your enemy is to study what they do. And part of how you propagate a message is to understand what language, what terms are common, and then how can we position and message more strongly so as to buy and win people over. And I feel like that's happening. I've certainly noticed it over the past few years. The older I get, maybe it's because I'm getting older that I notice it more. But certainly it is a dangerous tool. Empathy, compassion, how the Christian faith has been utilized and steered.
Yeah, exactly.
Towards supporting things we would not support otherwise.
Yes, I mentioned that natural propensity that most of us have towards nurturing and empathy, which means to place yourself in someone's shoes, to feel how they feel. But also for the Christian, it's a spiritual call. It is a command of us that we would love our neighbor as ourselves. And so it's easy for Christians to start adopting that language. I remember in the summer of 2020, this is when I noticed that empathy was being used as kind of like a cudgel, a political tool to get women to become progressive. I realized that a lot of Christians started to believe that empathy and love are the same things, that in order to really love my neighbor and to vote in a way that affirms my love for neighbor, I have to be led by empathy. That phrase was used so much. I have to lead with empathy. I have to be led by empathy. But summer of 2020, a lot of things were happening. People remember that convergence of the wake of the George Floyd riots. And then we had COVID, we had an election. And I started hearing this word so much. And I would engage with my fellow Christians about this, some very influential Christians who probably would even call themselves conservative Christians. And I was asking them, okay, like you're repeating some things like riots are the voice of the unheard, social justice is justice, you're talking about white privilege, white supremacy. Can you help me understand where we're coming from biblically? Because this is God's definition of justice. And also if we look at the data and the facts, they just don't support what you're saying. And I was told persistently by very influential Christians that sometimes it doesn't matter what's true as long as you have empathy. And I thought, well, gosh, if your empathy is leading you to affirm something that's true, not true, and to adopt policies that are destructive, then empathy isn't always good. Empathy can be dangerous. And what I've realized is that empathy, just like everything else, whether it's your authenticity, which is another thing that we're told is the highest virtue, or your autonomy, which is another supposed virtue that we are supposed to take on. All of these things can be good when they are in submission to absolute truth. Your empathy can be powerful. It can lead you toward righteousness and love and justice, but all of these things have to be defined by God. Empathy untethered from truth leads us to make very stupid, and I would say even evil decisions when it comes to policy.